Good day, everybody. Hope today's treating you well, and hope statistics is something that makes sense or is fun for you. We've done some foundation work on statistics, and now we're going to do some of the higher order thinking, some of the reasons why we actually look at statistics. So we've done all these different calculations on how to do statistics, but today we're going to start by looking at how we then apply things like the mean, median, mode, range, interquartile range, and how we actually apply it. The reason we do statistics is that we're looking at a population of things. And that population can be anything. The first thing that comes to mind, is the population of the world, or the population of USA, or population of Utah, the state we're in, or population of school. But the population doesn't have to be people. The word population is really just talking about a group of things. For example, all the items in a store, or and I'm not talking about people, schools in a district. The population can be anything, just a group of something. So I'll just put group. It can be just a group of anything, and so we can talk about populations and just groups that we want to study. Somebody might want to study raccoons, or bananas, or spiders. There's all these things that are studied. The items being studied are the population. The way we study population, we don't count everything. We don't go and count every single person in the world or the United States. We take what's called a sample. And the sample is what we look at, and then we use that sample, and I'll talk, I'm going a little bit ahead of myself, but we use the sample. So we take this small portion of a population, let's say a population, we just take a little small portion of it, and we look at that small sample. Here's the sample, and then we use that to try to understand the entire population without having done all the work of looking at the entire population. So we look at samples. We want to get samples that are, we don't want to do a ton of work. We want to do a good enough sample so that we can then use that to talk about everyone. Now, if I want to talk about, say, all 900 students at my school, I want to take, I don't want to count all 900, but maybe I want to get let's say, 90 students. If this is the population, maybe I want to ask 90 students a question, and then I can use that information to then decide, I think I can say something about all 900 students. So the work is about taking, a sample. Here's the population, taking an entire population, and then just looking at a piece of it, what we call the sample. And then we use that to understand the population as a whole. And we want the sample to be big enough. Like I don't want to just look at a little sample. I've looked at that many, so I know about the whole population. Well, probably not. The bigger the sample, the better. Try to look at the whole, half of the population. That might be too much work for us. But if we can get a sample size that's a good size, then we can understand the whole population. The larger the sample, the better, without making it be too much work for us. So how do we do that? Well, we take the population, whatever it is, I'll just do a circle. This population, we take this population, and we get a bunch of members of that population and put them all together, and that's our sample. And what we want is we want that sample, we want whatever we choose, however we choose, we want that to be what's called representative of the whole. We want it to be representative. That means we want it to represent well the whole population. If I want to look at all the students in a school, and I choose that well, I'm going to look at all the honors students. Is that going to represent everybody? Or I'm going to look at everybody who lives close. Lives close. Or I want to know, I'm going to look at everybody who only goes to the school half the day. Some students, have different classes, different places, or do it. Or I'm only going to look at the students who are doing school online. The problem with that is then it's not going to represent everybody. You want the sample that you choose not to just be a certain group. You want the sample to represent everything. So you want maybe a little bit of all things. Well, how can you create a sample that represents, whoops, be right back. The classroom doesn't think I'm moving in here. We'll have to get that fixed. I am moving a little bit. Sample. How do we get that sample to be a good representation of everybody? Well, the way we do that is by doing a systematic study of the population. So how can we get a systematic sample? How can we systematically pull from the population a group that would represent the whole group? Well, there's a couple ways. Let's say that I'm going to make a list, and then I'm going to choose every fifth person in that list. Choose every fifth or eighth or 20th item, for example. We use the word nth, but let's say I'm just trying to make a list of everything I want to study, and then just count down every fifth one I get to, I'm going to count that one, or every 10th one I get to, or maybe every 12th one I get to, I'm going to study. It's about taking a systematic approach to that. Maybe maybe I could assign a number to everyone. Everything I want to study, assign a number, and then we'll get more into this, but I can randomly choose numbers. One random, there's a number of ways to do random items. You know a lot about, rolling a dice and using the results of a dice roll to decide who to choose. You can pull from a hat. If I want to study all the students in a classroom, put all their names in a hat and just randomly choose some of them. Looks like I'm trying to think of some others that I might have as I'm looking at this. The point is to choose a system. Choose a system where the system will decide who to choose. If you don't use a system, you could end up getting a bad sample because the sample will not represent the whole. Some ways that will not represent the whole, for example, are let's say you're just going to choose all your friends. You're going to ask all your friends a question, and you say, "Oh, that means everybody thinks this way." Well, that kind of gets in the way of having it be a representation of everything. Or I'm going to choose all the items that are close to me. If I want to look at the elevation of land, and I'm just going to choose all the elevations that's around where I live. Well, there's all these mountains, and that's going to get in the way of the areas where there's not mountains. It's not going to be representative of all the areas. Let's say you're just going to do, I'm just going to talk to the first 10 people I meet, or the first 10 items I find, or the first certain amount of, that doesn't systematically get everybody. That just got those who are first. And if I wanted to study something like tardiness in a school, well, the first item, that doesn't help me get everybody. It's actually going to make me get a bad understanding of the population. And that's the message of today. That we have this whole group called the population of whatever we're going to study. And then what we do is we don't study the whole group. We study a sample, but we find a way to make that sample be representative. We want it to represent well the whole population. I've drawn a box here, but if you can imagine, finding some way to just get get lots of different members of this population and pull all of them into the sample. That's the way to study a population effectively. And that's the message of today. Hope that makes sense. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.